Our vision for how we perceive rewards in the game is that players should be making measurable progression every time they play the game. Yeah, even on the 100th time.
There it is.
Even the 100th time. So like when you're doing something, if it's the 100th time you're running an expedition, you should still feel like you're making progress towards some goal or have the opportunity to get something really cool from it. Hey everybody, welcome to Forged in Eternum, the show where we talk about all things New World. I'm Phil, and with me today is Tony, and we're going to be talking to you all about general loot, rewards, and progression, and how you're getting the good stuff in the game.
The goods, the chase.
Goods. Yeah,
the chase.
And so we get a lot of questions, right? And I think a topic that we talk about all the time in the studio is really just like, how do we make sure we're giving players generous chances to get good stuff in the game, and that they're going to get rewarded for what they're doing is going to get them what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I want to chat a little bit about, how we talk about it and how we think about it.
Yeah.
And share a little bit of insight with our players.
So it's funny. I think what you should do is you should tell them what the main pillar is for the rewards team that you say every sprint planning.
Oh, sure.
Everybody's
sick of me saying this
for the 100th time.
Yeah, for the 100th. Well, then it's part of it, right?
Run it back.
So I mean, our vision for how we perceive rewards in the game is that players should be making measurable progression every time they play the game. Yeah, even on the 100th time.
There it is.
Even the 100th time. So like when you're doing something, if it's the 100th time you're running an expedition, you should still feel like you're making progress towards some goal or have the opportunity to get something really cool from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no matter what you're doing in the game, ideally, I mean, if you're just dancing in the middle of town, that's going to be tough. But, generally playing the game, you should feel like you're making progress and working towards something.
Yeah, and I think one of the big, that breaks down into many different buckets, right?
Yep.
Because like you said, there's the expedition side of things, and then there's the crafting side of things, and there's a lot of different rewards tracks. And so like, one of the main things that we are looking at now, and probably by the time that you're watching this, you'll be experiencing it, hopefully, is just giving more control over some of the crafts. It's, I think, an interesting place to be from a design side, because the more control we give, the less runway we have. And if we go too short on the runway, then everybody chews through the content and everybody's done really quick. And so like it's this balance of like, we don't want people to be like really upset, but we also need to balance out like how long the content lasts. And so
it's a fair time to return.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Is how we kind of try to look at it, is if, putting an X amount of time in this portion of the game, try to make that equitable to if you were doing a different activity that you like, if you want to run expeditions. But you brought up crafting. Let's talk about crafting first, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've been thinking about recently and how we can really help our players, I think, get a little bit more control and dial in what they're getting in our crafting system? Yeah,
so I think one of the big things was that was just recently is the addition of like the golden scarabs and stopwatches to tools and bags. Those two items were just missing the ability to do that just outright, and so they kind of filled that in completely. Some of the other stuff.
But what does that do, Tony?
So when you use a golden scarab, you're able to select 2 additional perks for your craft, and then a stopwatch raises the floor, if you will, of the gear score, so it allows you to get a better chance at
getting that 600 roll.
That 600 roll, exactly. Yeah. And for tools and bags, it's really critical because they both have unique perks that only show up when you get a 600 roll.
Right.
And you can't upgrade. You can't upgrade those items at all. And
so you can't use Umbral on those items.
You can't. You have to craft them at a 600. And so I think that's really, really, really key and critical for just increasing those odds and increasing those. It's a better loop, right? You can invest a little bit more in terms of material, but you have more control and you have better odds in the end, which is big.
Yep.
And then the other side of it, I think, we'll roll back to some of the other things that we've been discussing internally, right? Which is, do we lean into bind on pickup more for our crafters? I think you said it really well earlier before this video started, but we can't have, a single crafter stand up the entire server with just insane items because they can control everything that they
Well, if we do that, then the game just becomes buy stuff from the trading post.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
That's not what we want.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And so, if we can lean into, say, you have more control over items, but these items are bind on pickup. Now, for yourself, you can be more self-sufficient,
Super self-sufficient.
which I think is great.
Get a really rad BIS item.
Yeah.
Yeah, and have a cool story maybe of how you actually had to get all the required materials to do that too, and things like that. Yeah.
So, like, if we look at crafting right now, you do all the work, you get to 200. Then you go spend the money, or you go grind out all the clothes, and then you go grind out all the trophies. And I mean, food is simple. But by the time you get all this stuff done at the end of it, you are hoping for good rolls to pay off for that investment.
Yeah.
If you could be more self-sufficient and make yourself some pretty sick stuff, then now you have other motives to go through that huge loop just to guarantee that you've got something at the end. There's like that number.
Right. As an end game crafter, right? If I'm trying to be self-sufficient, like we have the opportunity for crafters to roll the best items in the game and craft those and make lots of money selling those.
Yeah.
But also, I think where the rub comes in is the cost of those items. And if I'm trying to make something for myself too, having that kind of RNG is a bit frustrating.
It is. It is. I remember I went through the whole thing, and this was obviously a while ago, and I hit 200. I was like, sweet, I'm gonna make some stuff. And there was just like complete wind was knocked out of my sails because like it was just like, what else do I need to do to get what I'm after? And it's very hard, I think, to be like, I want this. How do I get this? And right now, it's. Well,
that's the theme of the conversation, right?
It is.
And so on crafting, I think we are leaning more towards being a lot more generous with self-sufficient crafters, while keeping in mind we still have a player-driven economy. We can't just allow, a hardcore crafter to just dominate. Yeah, exactly. So there's a balance there that we got to keep, but that is how we're looking at that. Other areas in the game, I'm, participating in an event, let's say maybe, and I want to know, that my effort's going to return something, right? And I want to know what I'm working towards at all times. I think this is something that we talk about a lot, and we've learned a lot. Let's go back in time real quick, Tony, to our Rabbids Revenge event of 2022.
So my interview.
Yes, actually, you brought this up when you.
I bring this up constantly.
Constantly.
So for anybody who doesn't know, I was interviewing for my job, and Phil happened to ask, "Hey, what did you think of the rabbit event?" In which I told him that I had skinned just under 3,000 rabbits to get the chest for my house, and I asked, "Why did it take so many?" And I could hear the sigh and feel his emotion over the phone call, and it was pretty great. So
still there.
For 2023, that's changed a bit.
A big bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it's a little boneheaded, I think, on our part, just to not give a backboard. We didn't really have that. It's referred to as a pity ticker in a lot of spots, kind of tech. And so now we do. In this year's event, you probably noticed that we had very explicit thresholds that if you actually didn't get a lucky roll by then, but you did put in an effort, you killed just maybe a couple hundred rabbits, you're good. You're good.
Yep.
It goes back to that equitable time stuff that we talk about all the time. And we really try to boil that down of what am I getting for what I'm doing in the game? Yeah. And so that was a big lesson that we're taking forward, and we're trying to work into more aspects of the game, right? What about as an end game PvE player? If I'm doing chest runs or running expeditions or something, how do I know that where I'm going to do this stuff is actually going to get me what I'm looking for?
Yeah.
What are some of the thoughts that you've got about how we can improve that for our players?
Yeah. So I mean, right now, there are. Oh man, there's so many ways to tackle some of these things. Because even when you go do it right now, it's still that random shot on what rewards are going to drop.
Yep.
And so it may take you 10 runs, it may take you 20 runs, it may take you 50 runs. I think there's a lot of examples out there where whether it is a pity ticker that's running behind the scenes, or forms of drops and things where you can go trade in to get what you're looking for. So like you only have to do it so many times
Right,
before
so-
you have a thing where you can go and like, just give me
The
what I'm
materia
after.
update we did, I think, was
Yeah.
a big way we aimed to address a little bit of that randomness, right?
Yep.
Like you put in the time, you've done it enough, you can go
Here's
kind
your
of
thing.
craft your reward
Exactly.
that you are hunting for if you got unlucky, right?
Yep.
However, I think there's something cool that we're toying with right now. This idea of exclusive kind of perks or locations for certain items and things like that. It's a kind of a gleam in our eye right now, but we're, but making sure that I know if I'm like in this expedition that I have the opportunity to get something really special.
Yes.
I think that is something that we could do a lot better on.
Yeah, I would say our how do I say it in non-internal terms, but our global random bucket is a bit too wide. And I
It's-
think
yeah.
if we can hone that stuff in, we have a lot of analytics and a lot of data. We know what people are hunting. We can definitely kind of segment some of that stuff and be like, oh, well, I'm going to go run Gen for this or run Laz for this or do whatever.
Exactly.
For a very pointed reason
Yeah.
versus like, I'm just going to go run some content and hope for the best. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I feel like that's a little bit of the feeling that you can get into right now. It's really not the intention as
Yeah.
per our goals, right? And so we, looking at ways that we can make that a lot more special for players,
Yeah.
and I think have that fantasy fulfillment of hunting for
Yes.
a boss's special, artifact or something like that, like or whatever that is, right? Special item, I should say.
Yeah.
That could be really, really cool.
I think so too.
And then what about for the PvP players?
Yeah. So because like right now you're looking at you have the reward track, which I believe there's a lot going on right now. It's currently getting some love.
It's getting a lot of love right now, and that should be debuting with season 2, where we're amplifying the rewards. Just a quick overview for season 2. We're amplifying the rewards. We're guaranteeing where prestige items will show up. We're taking a pass at all of those to make sure that they are really good with the current meta.
Yeah.
And then like every 5th level you achieve on the reward track,
Yep.
you're gonna get you're gonna have access to a dedicated drop for that.
Yeah.
And then as you get past level 20 as well, you're gonna get very, very frequent named item drops and prestige drops.
Yeah.
So that players are gonna at least be able to find what they're looking for a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think that's like back to the whole theme of this thing, right? Like someone can look at the track, figure out what is where, and then be like, oh, well, I'm going to go grind this because eventually I will get to this point, and then I'll get the thing I'm after, and then
Exactly.
I'm good to go. Versus, how many boxes do I need to open until hopefully this thing drops? And
Yeah, I think right now it's a little too opaque, right?
it is very.
Yep.
You're hoping, you're throwing darts and praying for the best.
Yeah, and so that's really where we notice like we need to do better, and we're taking a lot of steps right now to try to improve that across the board.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Okay, well that brings us to this week's community question, and that is going to be, Dear New World, what quality of life improvements are you looking forward to for crafting?
Absolutely. And so hopefully if y'all enjoyed the video, you like what we're doing here, please like and subscribe. It would really, really help us out. And we will see you in the tournament.
Well, you have to answer the question, dude.
I don't have to answer the question. That's for them to answer. It's the community question. It's not my question. They don't.
Oh, I thought you were going to answer the
That's
question.
my job is to answer that question.
Yeah.
I mean, I write you Slacks and emails about that. They need to know what they want because that's why that's why it's the community. It's not the developer question.
Ah,
Community
I see.
question.
That threw me off.
Their question, bro.
Yeah, now it makes way more sense.
If I want to
It
see
was
a quality
easier.
of life
I was
thing in
making it
crafting,
harder
I
than
just
it needed to be.
I put it in.
Classic Phil.
Do you watch the show?
I haven't watched an episode recently, no.
Man, you just threw yourself under the bus.
did.
I watch every single one of these. I love them.
I know. You sent them to me.
When we're planning for a major update, that's a huge undertaking. That's months and months and months of work and preparation and planning.
Yep.
It's not the same for a minor update.